What's up, Bug Dug with Dean in the garage? We have got to talk about the weird friggin' live stream announcement stuff that Jeep did this morning. I had no intention of making this video. I don't have my good camera. I didn't have an external microphone, so I apologize if the sound quality is a little cocked. This morning at 9 a.m., if you're watching this on Thursday, September 3rd, this was just this morning, 9 a.m., Jeep did a live stream on YouTube to announce some information about the much waited for Grand Wagoneer and the announcement of the new 4xe plug-in electric line that will be coming to each of the Jeep platforms at some point. It was super weird. It was hard to get through. I'm making this video so that if you haven't seen it, you don't have to. It was hosted by the president of the Jeep brand, the global president of the Jeep brand, who I did not know was a French person. I do all this yelling and screaming and hooting and hollering and banging about Jeep being the most American brand, and we can't even get a global president who's American. That sucked. So this guy, Christian Munier, I can't pronounce French things. I'm an American. I apologize, except that I don't apologize. So he hosted it, very French, like immediately, like excessively French in your face. You're expecting to hear some Jeep stuff. But what made it even weirder was that it opened with this French guy, which, man, nothing against the dude. Like, it is what it is. You guys know how I feel about that. He's very French, like I said, and talking about Jeep, and like the very first thing he brings up is Jeep's importance to America and American history. They're talking about how they're doing this live stream from Detroit because it is the spirit of America that Detroit runs on, and they're showing pictures of World War II Willys MBs and how that is the vehicle that liberated Europe, and he's telling stories about what Jeep means to him is an orange Willys that he and his family used to take from France to the Italian Alps for vacation, and I'm just like, this is not what I was expecting at all. It was just very disjointed, which was kind of the theme for the entire live stream. The entire video was disjointed. They would kind of like tell you about the Jeep legacy and then like explain how what they're going to be doing in the future is nothing like what we knew Jeep used to be. And I think what they were trying to do with this video was find the best way to capitalize on nostalgia so that they could Jiminy Christmas amateur hour, so that they could I can't think of words right now. That's how much this threw me off this morning. Introduce. I couldn't think of the word introduce. Amateur hour. So that they could introduce these ideas that are probably not going to be very popular to the Jeep buying public. I don't think Jeepers are probably the type of people that are going to be gravitating towards electric vehicles. We're going to talk about that more later. And they're certainly not the kind of people who are going to spend $100,000 on an SUV. We're going to talk about that later. Let's talk a little bit more about just how weirdly they introduced us to this video. They started talking about the Mack Ave plant, which is expanding right now. The Mack Ave plant in Detroit was always the engine plant. I think it was opened in like 1978, maybe. Someone on here probably works there and will correct me. And it's done various things. That's where the 4.7, this bad boy, in this thing was made. And I believe right now it makes 3.6 Pentastars. And they're expanding that. They're talking about how it's going to be 6,500 new jobs in the United States in Detroit because of the new operations at the Mack Ave plant. And then he talks about, like, immediately goes into how he wants Jeep in the future to be known as the greenest, most responsible SUV brand. Which, I mean, okay, when you think green vehicles, electric vehicles, Jeep just does not come to mind. And I think you'd have a heck of a time remarketing everybody to think of Jeep that way, but I guess you got to try it. At this point, they introduced the 4xe plug-in hybrid nameplate. That's the badge that's going to be on all of their plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, starting with the Renegade and the Compass, which I do actually think makes sense as green vehicles, because somebody who was going to buy a Prius or a Nissan Leaf might look to a Renegade or a Compass and say, yeah, I can get behind that vehicle. That crossover makes sense. the numbers they put out were kind of impressive. 240 horsepower, 30-mile range, which doesn't really seem like that much. The one that really confused me, and I don't spend a lot of time in the electric vehicle world, but the top speed of the 4xe Compass and Renegade is going to be 125 miles an hour. Yeah, right. But then when it's running on full electric, it's only 80. And my question is it governed to 80 to save the battery? Or can it only do, like, can the electric motors only spin up to 80? I've never heard of electric vehicles having such a low top speed. So I assume that has to be to keep battery life. I don't know, somebody will tell me. None of that there makes me want an electric Renegade or Compass. I do own a Compass. My wife's daily driver is a 2018 Compass. We looked into Subarus, we looked into other things, but at the end of the day, they were just all the same, and I'd rather have a Jeep, even if it is a Fiat Chrysler Jeep in the garage there. But I wouldn't want an electric one. If I'm going to do 80 miles an hour for 30 miles, that's great. How long would that take you? 80 miles an hour? That's like 20 minutes of driving on the highway, and then the battery is dead. That's just not very impressive to me. They mentioned that it's going to be coming to all platforms, so you're going to have your 4xe, Grand Cherokee, and everything else. I mean, that makes sense. At some point, every vehicle will probably be offered with the potential for it being a hybrid plug-in electric, I imagine. Governments keep making stricter and stricter mandates for emissions and this, that, and the third, and at some point, auto manufacturers are probably going to have to, at the very least, offer a internal combustion and a plug-in hybrid electric. I would imagine. After this bit of solid information, old Christian there starts getting kind of weird. He describes how happy it made him to drive an electric Compass or Renegade because of how quiet they are. He called it a sailboat experience. I guess sailboats are really quiet because they don't have big loud motors banging around, but like modern cars are just not that loud. Like the road noise is way more than even this 20-year-old 4.7. I hear road noise, and I hear the cheap knockoff power steering pump that I bought that whines like a supercharger. My wife's Jeep, the only thing you hear is road noise. So I don't understand that's the best selling point, that they're quiet. Who cares? Are people really complaining that much about, I don't know, whatever. I found that it's just, this whole interview was super weird. Everything they said, I was just like, why are they saying that? Why are they doing that? Then he said something that downright was just, it was off-putting. He said he wants to see the Jeep wave become the green wave. And I was just like, that's nonsense. You're clearly just capitalizing on some very unique and appealing part of Jeep culture and then just like attaching green to it. Like, that's just stupid. It's nonsense. It made me think of the Green New Deal, and then I was really ticked off. Then, to double down on that strange comment and just really just whoring out Jeep nostalgia, he quoted one of my favorite quotes, but just that had no place in this video. The quote goes, "When I die, I want to be buried in my Jeep because it hasn't found a hole yet that it couldn't get out of." I've always loved that. I would put a sticker of that on the back of my lifted WJ. It belongs on the back of a lifted Wrangler out there bouncing around Moab, or an XJ. It has nothing to do with an electric Renegade or Compass. What? That's all. Literally, jaw hits that desk when I'm watching this thing. I was like, what are you even, where did you find it? Who told you? This French guy quoting that, like, kind of down and dirty. Like, when I hear a quote like that, my imagery is that of like a shitbox Wrangler or XJ that's just getting beat to heck, beating that baby, banging through the trails. I'm gonna drop it in 4 low and go. Not what they were introducing next, which was an electric Wrangler. Now, before they dove right into the electric Wrangler, after the weird gravedigger comment, they did like this pseudo Wrangler commercial. It was a long Carl Sagan quote about how tiny our world is in the grand scheme of the universe. And the shots were like shots of Wranglers, random shots of like garbage in the ocean, and then like random shots of like landscapes. So I had no idea what I was watching at that point. At that point, I literally had to pause the video, kind of like regroup myself, and just like this random Carl Sagan quote. In fact, if you're gonna go and watch any of this video, just try to find that bit, because it was super weird. And like I I don't know. I guess they were trying to set the tone. I guess this whole thing was about Jeep becoming more responsible and more green, but it just doesn't compute. That's not what the Jeep nameplate means. You can't change completely the image of such an iconic and ingrained brand. And that's where this dissonance was in this whole video. You're telling me something, but then you're attaching Jeep and all the pre-existing Jeep lore and imagery to it, and the two things don't compute. And my brain just screeches to a halt while it tries to understand what the heck this Frenchman is trying to tell me. Super weird. So then they go into the 4xe Wrangler, which is going to have a 2-liter turbo, and it's going to be a plug-in hybrid. The numbers that they put out are like impressive, but I don't know if I believe them. 375 horsepower, 470 foot-pounds of torque, 50 miles per gallon with a 25-mile electric range. Now, I understand the whole point of a plug-in electric is, you're not only dependent on the battery, but to me it just seemed pointless at 25-mile range. Like, why even bother? It's entirely possible that I just don't get electric vehicles. They're clearly not for me. I'm going to hold on to my internal combustion engine until somebody comes and pries it out of my cold, dead hands. The way they described the electric Wrangler is the perfect vehicle for urban adventuring. There's a lot to unpack in that one. What they're subtly addressing here is that an electric Wrangler is just a terrible vehicle for off-roading, which is what the Wrangler's known for, of course. I don't want to put my electric Wrangler near a bunch of mud and water and jostling off-road situations, and they're addressing that by saying it's the perfect vehicle for urban adventuring. But that isn't even true, because first of all, urban adventuring is nonsense. But if you're like driving around in the city, you want to be in like the smallest car possible. Have you ever tried to navigate either LA or New York City? I've had the misfortune of trying to navigate both of them, and I wanted to be in a smart car because people were cutting you off and all this, so that whole bit was nonsense. And I'm sure the Wrangler will obviously sell well as the plug-in hybrid electric, because they don't only get used for off-road use, just as many of them are grocery getters or daily drivers. But like, if you're concerned about a plug-in hybrid electric, wouldn't you want something smaller, because then it saves even more gas? Like, I just don't know who the 4xe Wrangler is for. They're trying to convince me that it's for me, and it's not for me. Let's move on down the road to what everybody actually wants to hear about, the Grand Wagoneer. Now, what they were absolutely hammering home was how much this Wagoneer was like the old Wagoneers. And the problem there is that it's not even remotely. If you look at the front end of it, it looks like a Dodge, yes, it has the 7 slats, obviously, but it looks like a Dodge Durango, especially the bottom half of the front stack there. Those are Dodge lines. I'm sure that was done for ease of production between the two, because I think the next generation Durango is going to be on the same platform as this Wagoneer. I don't know if that's changed. I forgot to look that up before I started filming. They claimed that the very vertical B, C, and D pillars was done strictly for the purpose of making it look like the old one. I don't know how true that is. It is pretty boxy in the context of 2020 vehicles. In the context of every vehicle ever made, no, it's relatively rounded off, especially compared to the original one, which was really very boxy. They claimed to be using a forward-leaning grille like the original Kaiser Wagoneer and J trucks are known for. I just didn't see it. Like, they would show you a profile of the front of the vehicle, I guess a little bit, but I think they did the absolute least they could to make it a Wagoneer. What I took away from this was that I would have rather they call this something else and not call it a Wagoneer. I don't see how it really does justice to the original Wagoneer nameplate. They should have called it the Commander, because they should just brought back the Commander as this. They are, like I said, driving it home in a big way. They've got what they're calling Easter eggs, but it's not Easter eggs. It's not hidden. You don't have to find it. Slapped everywhere, it says established 1963, which of course is when the original Wagoneer came out. So they want They're trying to fool us into thinking we got a Wagoneer. We didn't. If anything, we got a Commander, which is what they should have called it. I don't know why it bothers me so much, the way automakers mess with nameplates, but it really hurts my soul. This thing is crazy modern. It's gonna start at 60 grand, which, okay, and then go up to like 100 grand. So I imagine for 60 grand, you get a totally base model, probably 3.6, and then somewhere in there, I imagine there will be a 5.7 option, and the aforementioned 4xe 2.0 turbo, and then probably at some point SRT will get a hold of it, because that just makes sense. That's what I would do. Some other crazy features about it: it has this relax mode where you park someplace and the screens, which by the way are everywhere in this thing, every seat has a screen in front of it. It goes into relax mode, which is like an iTunes visualizer from 2003. You guys remember the iTunes visualizer? And so I don't know, like, I love being in my Jeep. I spend 2 hours a day commuting in this Jeep, which is why I sought out the Limited with the seats and everything. But as luxurious and comfortable as this Jeep is, when I'm done driving, I'm getting out of it. I'm not, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I've parked places because like I had to, but I didn't want some, I don't know. Google the relax mode. It's super weird. I'm like, just why? What does that have to do with anything? The Jeep brand or luxury? I don't know. It's worth mentioning it's going to be built at the Warren plant, so that's cool, man. I'm always for Jeeps being made in the United States, you know, by Americans, for Americans, described by a Frenchman, apparently. Another thing they did, they brought on the chief of design, and he drove home how sustainable all the materials are. So again, they're trying to push that responsible auto brand thing. And I know they have to do that, and I know that all auto brands should be striving, at least in some practical way, to go green and become more sustainable whenever you can. I don't think you should break your back over it. That's not going to be a popular comment, whatever. But I just felt like, for how big a deal they made about this video, I just don't think they realize who their target audience is. No, it's not me, because I don't really buy new Jeeps. I've bought the one new Jeep, everything else I buy. And you guys are probably the same way. I know the viewers on this channel, you guys are driving, you know, the good old day Jeeps. But like, even the people I know who do buy new Jeeps, I don't think that it would calculate what they were being shown, this hyper modern, hyper green, new company image connected with the old imagery and everything from the Jeep brand. He closed it out with the weirdest quote of the day. We went through all this stuff, and it actually, halfway through the Wagoneer part, I really just wanted to be able to turn it off. I was done, but I wanted to watch it so that I could tell you guys about it. It was so weird. As soon as I turned it on, I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to make a video out of this, because this is getting odd. Here's the quote, and it was to describe the feeling of driving a Jeep. At the end of the day, your feet are dirty, your hair is messy, and your eyes are sparkling. I don't know what that means. Why are your feet dirty? I guess your hair is messy if you were driving around in a Wrangler with the top off. Why are your feet dirty and eyes sparkling? I don't have a clue what this guy was thinking or who wrote this script for him. I'm praying there was a language barrier issue and he just wasn't super comfortable with English, but that didn't seem like the case. He was pretty fluent in English. At the end of the day, your feet are dirty, your hair is messy, and your eyes are sparkling. I'm gonna lose sleep tonight trying to figure out what the hell that meant, why our eyes are sparkling, and what it has to do with the Jeep brand. But there it is. Let me know what you thought about this video, obviously. Leave me a comment down there in the squawk boxes. Am I off base? Is there more enthusiasm in the Jeep community for the 4xe coming to all platforms than I'm assuming there is? I don't feel like there's a lot of enthusiasm for that, because that market is very well serviced by like Prius and even like Nissan and some other car manufacturers that are positioned there, whatever, not Jeep. Additionally, are any of you lining up for the $100,000 Grand Wagoneer? If I'm spending $100,000 on a Grand Wagoneer, it better be a 1963 Wagoneer in mint condition with low miles that somebody found in a barn. I don't want a newfangled vehicle with all the planned obsolescence and bugs that go along with new vehicles. That misses the mark for me. Leave us that comment down there in the squawk boxes. I guess go check the video out if you dare. I will link the video in the description down below where you can find it. It's 29 minutes long, and that's a long 20 minutes. I'm going to tell you that right there. Once you've finished this video, left us a comment, maybe consider subscribing to the channel, like the video. If you like the video, that's common sense. Then go ahead over to our Etsy store, just released today, because you all asked for them. They said, hey, can we get a bigger D&E logo? Can we get one with color? I said, yeah, I guess I should have done that. I got the real tiny black and white ones when the channel first started, and I didn't know if it was ever going to go anywhere. So whatever, they're there now over on Etsy. Check them out. I'll be sending out the first batch of orders mañana. All right. Yeah, thanks. Hope this video wasn't as painful as the source material. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.